me try to record this here. All right, so here we are. I'm going to start doing this house here, sort of as a revision based on some of the questions that I had a little bit earlier. I'm going to start with this cube, and I do have the interactive creation turned on. So here under polygon primitives, that thing's turned on, and that is how I'm actually able to draw the cube by just doing this right here. So from here, I've drawn the sort of the base, and I'm going to extrude this up so that it sort of matches up this sort of profile that I'm looking at here. Now I could do this a couple different ways. I think today, just based on kind of what I had in the last class here, I think today I'm actually going to put two divisions in here. So I believe that should give us two divisions on the depth, right? And let me just check something. Oh, you know what? Let's work this way here. Oh, right. Okay, so here, yep, that's what I had here. So let's flip this around here, because I would rather have this be the forward axis and then these be the sides. I'm just used to working with the axis, the side here. So let's just change this here to 4 by 5. That's about the size here of this. And then, all right, so as I was saying here, I want two divisions running down this thing here. So I believe that is the width, like that. It's a little wide for what I have here. So I'm thinking, what I want out of this thing is just the little tip of that roof here. So, whoops, oh, whatever, let's just keep it there. So here, what I could do here is I could just, I could do this in some different ways. Let me show you guys how to do this here in some different ways. So what my interest here is just taking this and making it smaller, right? So what I could do is I could simply just take this this one face, pinch it in a little bit like that, and now move it up. That solves my immediate problem here. Or, what if we wanted all those things here to be a little smaller here? So what I could do is just draw a marquee around this the squares here, these little faces here, and then you could do the same thing by using your scale tool here. The shortcut would be R, and I could scale that down there. That feels a little better. Here I could.
How are you grabbing onto the specific sides?
How am I grabbing onto the specific sides? Here's the thing. It's all about the selection here. So I've got, this is the way my my cube was created, right? I put in a different division here in the I put in some more divisions here on the width, I believe, and so here I am in object mode, right? This is the way I made my thing. Let's zero that out so it's in the center, and here I'm going to right click, and actually we can do this a couple different ways here. So here under face, the way I was showing you here is I could just just sort of like carefully select a little marquee around that strip of polygons here, of faces, and I know it's going to give me this. And from here, I can make that bigger or smaller. I could also do this way. I could right-click, and let's say we could go to edges. We could take these 4 edges here, this, and this, and I'm holding down Shift to toggle, select my edges. If I hit R for scale, I can, again, I can scale that down like that. And that does the same thing. And then finally, another way I can do the same exact thing is just by doing the vertices, just taking all that. Again, like all this stuff is just really a different way of doing the same thing. So, go ahead.
Could you show the loop selection? Because I actually forgot how to do that.
Absolutely. But hold on just a second here. So the point I want to make here is that, this is just different ways of dealing with the same thing. So if you think about what this thing is here, this is a face or a polygon, right? And what is a polygon? It's like a shape, and a shape is made up of, it's a contained, let's say a contained circuit of lines or something, right? Or it's a contained, in this case, this face is made up of edges, right? And these edges are these things. So, I could get that same result here by doing that. That gets me the exact same thing as if like I had, this face selected here. Same thing, right? And then, you know, and that if the edges themselves, you know, lines are made up of connections between 2 points, right? Edges and lines. So if I take these 2 lines, that's essentially the same thing as if I were manipulating this. And, you know, and from here, you could change the shape just by pulling that little line around here. So the point I want to make here is there's multiple ways of reshaping or manipulating this object using the different components here, you know. So here I could pull off this shape that we were looking at just by doing that. I think here, well, I could just, you know, just to show you here, I could take those edges here and bring that up. That gives me roughly the shape I was looking for over here, right? Just one thing in terms of like neatness, maybe. I think I might want to have like some divisions in here. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, the face thing is what I've been looking for.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So actually, with this, just actually, let's go back and answer somebody else's question. I believe that was Andy. So Andy, you were talking about you know, loops. So like with the polygons, which is usually kind of what I'm working with here. If I wanted to select some different things here with the some different, if I wanted to select the loop here, what I could do is just select this first one here, this first face, and I'm gonna hold down Shift, right? And you see that little cursor becomes a plus sign. And if I just double click on this, this face that's next to it here, because we're dealing with quads, and that means 4-sided polygons or faces, it goes all the way around this object here. And you're seeing, you know, you get the loop. Now, a different way of selecting the loop is you could just go to Edge, double click that line or that edge, and it goes all the way around here to select the loop. You know, same thing here. Same thing here, except here it gets cut off because you know, you're running into a corner here, and that loop is sort of redirected here. Now, if I had something running down this way here, then yeah, it would find its way. Corners and triangles and things like that, and F-guns, those will cut off the loop. So all right, so here I'm going to reshape this roof, and I think, you know, just looking at my my thing here, I think this this top part of the house, it gets a little wider at the top. So I think an easy way to do that here is I'm going to just select these top faces here. I'm going to press R and make that bigger. So that gives us a little bit of a thing like this, where it's getting a little bigger at the top. And from here, I think what I'm going to do, I could do this a couple different ways, but I think what I would like to do, see, I could do this way, guys. I could do this way and just pull that up here, and that kind of gets me that effect. And then the next part here is I think I would like to add loops to this here. But check this out. Here's the reason I'm not doing that here, is because if I add a loop here, instead of going across this way, it goes across this, because this is, in fact, this is how a loop works. If I use my multi-cut tool and I want to put a loop, then it's going to go around the quad. It doesn't care that, you know, I've positioned this thing like that. It still understands, oh, a loop is from here to here and not from here to here, like, you know, I would like to do it here. So, I mean, I could just do that. Let me show you something here, just while we're on this subject. Let's say I actually did this here, and I wanted to cut this across this way here. So one thing I could do here, I would really like to just fix this stuff here, the geometry here, like this. So that's kind of what I would do right there, is to just fix that. Let's see. Let's pull that up a little bit here. Oh, it's a little weird. Oh, whatever. Anyway, so here, what I would like to do is just to fix this geometry right here to here. And I'm taking the multi-cut tool here, and I'm clicking on this line. I get a little blue point, and I'm going to drag it all the way down here until the corner. It'll stop, and then it'll become yellow. And I'll just do it here in the same, on this corresponding side here. It's blue, and if I drag it all the way to the corner, it's going to become yellow and stop. From here, I can just press Enter, and do the same thing here. What this is doing here is it's kind of fixing a little bit of my geometry here. You see now I actually have, instead of an n-gon, which is a 5-sided polygon that I was having here, I believe that was 5, 1, 2, 3, no, that's fine. But it just divides my, my geometry a little better, like this. And you know, now I've got this nice sort of square at the bottom, very sort of easy to work with here. And I do have this triangle here at the top, which I can use. I would rather avoid triangles here. Check this out here. Let's do this here. Here's a different way, just so you guys know, a different way of working with the multi-cut tool here is I could just click a little point here, and I'm going to drag this, this line all the way across here. And in order to lock it down to one axis here, I can press Shift, right? If I press Shift, you know, now it locks to that X axis like that. And if I let go, it slices all the way around the object here. So I guess I could do this sort of thing here. I like this. I like this a lot, yeah. And I could just slice it up that way. And these are loops, okay? So the cool thing about this, let's put one more in there. The cool thing about this here is I could take this, you know, and let's use a soft selection on this here. So I'm going to press B for brush, right? And I've just tapped B and it accesses my soft selection brush. If I hold B and drag up and down by clicking and then dragging, you know, I've got my finger on my mouse button and I'm dragging up and down or sideways, it makes the sensitivity of the soft select, like it makes it more or less sensitive here. You know, and you can do that here. I guess here, I think what I would do is just, you know, we're talking about making a little curve, so I would just sort of pinch that in on the x-axis here. And the nice thing about the soft select here is it grabs stuff sort of around it here, and you get this little tapering effect here. With this one here, I'm just going to adjust this by hand, like that. I'm kind of happy with that. And that gets me that nice little tapering effect here. And from here, I could just sort of extrude the roof out here. With this one here, it's going to be a little funny, okay? This one's going to be a little bit funny because I have these things here, which extend a little beyond where they're supposed to go. Actually, yeah, that's one way we can do this top of the house here. Another way that's actually a little simpler. Let's just undo all this stuff here. Yeah, all right, so a different way that I could do this here is to simply just take this. I'm going to just select this, this, and this. I'm just right-click, selecting the faces. And from here, once I have the faces, okay, now, once these faces are selected here, I'm going to press the extrude button here. It's this, or you can press Control-E, or you can simply press Shift and drag this with your Move tool here. I'm just going to press this button on the shelf here. This is also available to you under Edit Mesh and Extrude. That's that. Anyway, I'm going to just drag this out here, so I have one of these things here. And, you know, maybe, well, let's do this. I'm going to just drag this in like that. Or better yet, let's just pinch it down here. That's kind of what I want. I'm going to take those edges. Let's just bring them in here. I do like that top part here to be sort of nice and neat, like so. And from here, I can just start cutting across. So here, if I do the loops here, you know, that I can just use my multi-cut tool, press Control and or Command if you're on a Mac, and then just slice straight across. So I've done this in 2 different ways now using the multi-cut tool. I kind of like this way a little bit because it's like flat and it sort of respects the sort of the thing I've got going here, sort of. Let's just start tapering this again here. So I could just take this, hit soft selection. I'm going to scale this down by holding R. Take this down like so. There we are. So I got this going.
That's so cool.
What, the soft selection?
Yes.
Yeah, it makes things so much easier, especially when you guys are getting into like organic things and more like softer curves and things. Okay, so here we are. We have this roof, and I'm about ready to, let's get rid of the soft select. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a loop from here to here. Let's see. Oh, it does it the other way around. All right, so let's try this from here to here. And double click. And then let's just take this here. And then I'm double clicking here and I'm completing that part here. And from here, I'm going to just extrude this out here a little ways. And you know what? Just thinking about.
I think you missed the face.
I did. Oh,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. I did. Huh. Okay. So let's try this. Bring that up. Whoops. I missed more of them in now. And you see, this is an error I saw with a lot of people's work. You know, sometimes you make a little mistake and you forget that you actually had that clicked. I'm sorry, you had that selected, and then you go ahead and extrude, and it acts up like that. So here I'm back at normal here, and that's just pretty much the faces as they are. I'm going to select all these guys here. From here, I will extrude this now. That. There it is again. What is up with that? All right, so there's that. And let's just select that little missing guy. This. And there's a big difference here. What the heck? I'm always forgetting these things. All right, let's try this out with this. Come on. Is that anything else? Okay, that's it. So here, I'm going to extrude this out here by doing this. So if I pull these arrows, you see it sort of rounds things out. So I think what I would rather do here is I'm going to just manipulate the thickness of the extrusion here, something like about that. Let's do 0.25 maybe, or maybe even 0.1. Whoops. Let's do 0.15. Let's try that. Yeah, maybe even 0.1. Sure. Let's get rid of this so it doesn't round it. Oh yeah, that's much better. And okay, so 0.125. That's fine. And with these little guys here, I think what I'm going to do with this is to just extrude that out a little ways here. There we go. That's feeling a little better here. And here, let's say we wanted some more divisions in there, so I could put in, you know, just a little bit more here to get that into place here. Let's try something out here, guys. So check this out. So now this house is more or less symmetrical. The reason I did this little thing here is because I want a little ledge at the corner here. Maybe that's a little too much, but I'm going to fix this here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to show you guys some settings here with the move tool that will allow us to manipulate the symmetry here. So for example, here with the W or move tool, that's this, I'm going to open up my tool settings, which is the little hammer that you're going to see in the top right corner of Maya's interface here. You're going to come down to here where it says symmetry settings. And here under symmetry, I'm going to go and have it set to the object's X orientation. Either that, or you can do the world's X orientation. Let's go with the object's orientation. And from here, now I can combine that even with the soft selection here. So I'm going to take that up a little ways here. And now I'm going to just rotate this in here a little ways here. And that gets me that. Got this nice little, yeah, something like that. That's kind of cool. I like that. And then from here, let's just get out of here. And let's turn this back off now. Don't forget, if this annoys you, which it might, don't forget to turn it back off here. So from here, let's see. All right, so let's pinch this down here first. So I'm going to just take the corners here. I'm going to start scaling this down here a little ways. Here, here, and I'm double clicking this to get those faces. And that gets me a sort of a more appealing little curve. And finally, I'm going to put in some beams here for this thing. So we could do this a couple different ways. Let's check this out here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this part and all the way to here. Let's see if that gives me what I'm looking for. This to this. Oh yeah, there we go. So that does the whole loop. So if I've selected this first one, and then I've shift selected this one, I need double click, and that does the whole loop. And the loop, again, is based on these four-sided faces that I have here. You know, one little thing that's kind of bugging me here is just that this indentation here is a little bit bigger. So, sorry, did I say indentation? I guess what I meant is there's this little trapezoid shape here that I don't like. I want this to be all sort of regular. So I'm going to just take my scale tool and sort of straighten it out a little bit there. That looks better to me. So it's like a little bit more predictable in terms of the geometry. I'm holding down space bar, and I've got this new loop I built here. Let's take this. I'm going to take this. Well, first of all, let's extrude this part out because I want, here, let me show you my train of thought here. So my point is here, you see this little ledge, it extends out beyond the shape or the wall here. So I'm going to make sure I have that here in here. And I'm going to just take this, and with this part here, I don't care. I could just do the thickness here, or I could just bypass this thing altogether because it's set to the world orientation, and I could just bring this out a little ways just like that. Fine with that. And then from here, I'm going to extrude this up. Let's take this guy and then go all the way to the other corner here. I'm going to hold down shift and double click, and that gets me that loop. I'm going to do the same with this. Do this all the way around, shift and double click. Oop. Okay, that one's being a little fussy. So let's do this. This, and let's go all the way to the top here to double click. And then from here, let's try it out this way. There we go. And that gets me that. You know what else? Just while I'm thinking about it here, I want this thing also to extend beyond the area here. So let's take this, and I'm going to use the thickness tool here. There we go. Okay, that's getting, yeah, that's kind of getting there, right? You know what? Yeah, I like that. I don't know if I feel like doing the other one here. And I'm going to show you guys a way to get around that here by, you know, something I mentioned in the previous class. We can use the, you know, it's all about sort of identifying patterns and, you know, seeing where you can reuse things. I think that's kind of where, you know, where things are at just in art in general these days. If you can sort of reuse some of the things that you've, you're working on here. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. I like that a lot. I think the only thing I kind of, I don't know, the only thing that I kind of don't like too much is this guy, and I wonder if I could take a bevel, right? If I take a bevel here, what the bevel does is it'll take this line and it'll divide it into two lines here. So if I do this bevel here, that splits that thing into two, and then you can use the fraction here to do a little bit of that. What this is going to get me here is kind of interesting here. If I do 3, that's even better. Let's take this. I'm going to pinch that down here. Let's take this guy. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, you know what? We'll just leave that alone, maybe. I guess what I could maybe do is just take this, and we could, you know, I could work a sort of another beam in there, or better yet, I could just probably just model a beam and put it, you know, sort of carefully placed in where I think it should be here. Maybe I could have thought about that as like to connect this up to here, but I do want that as a separate piece. So maybe a better way to do this here is just pinch this down here. well, we'll deal with that. I think I'll just build that as a separate piece. In any case, let's use the mirror tool here to get me the other side of that beam. And I'm going to take this this little thing here that says, it should say mirror down in this area here. This will tell you what tool you're using or how to use the tool that you're using. So in my case here, I want to go to mirror, which is this guy. You can also find it here under mesh, mirror, right? And anytime you see the little option box here that gives you a way of finding the features here, you know, I realize that I gave you guys a sort of a glimpse of this in the last video, but for some reason I just didn't have the window because I've got a dual monitor set up here. In any case, like anytime you see a little box, the options for that that command are going to come up here. You can choose, like, you can manipulate different ways and how it works. Not that I'm going to here, but I just wanted to show you that's what the little boxes do. Anyway, let's just use as it is because it's really, really versatile already as it is. So right now, with this mirror tool selected, let's have a look at the little box that came up here. And it says the axis that I'm mirroring on is the x-axis. So remember when I took the time to set my object up, like, you know, I wanted the front of the house to be facing, you know, in the z direction. So that would mean, like, where the arrow is pointed, that's the positive direction of the axis here. So in my case here, we're currently mirroring this on the x, and I am interested actually in mirroring it on the z. And so just like I was saying, this is the forward axis. So this would be kind of like the front of the house here. So that would be where I'm going to put the door. With this one here, I'm going to put that over here, and I like this. It's just that I want it in the other direction. So the direction here, it says minus. Let's go plus. And there, yeah, that gets me sort of the house that I'm looking for, or the sort of the main profile of the house. Let's take a look here at what else we have going on. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So just because I had somebody do a really sort of impressive sort of bunch of little shingles here. Let's take a look at what that looks like here. Okay, so almost like little hexagons here. So I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this. I build myself a little system here out of squares. And let's take this. I'm going to give it a nice cut down the middle. Let's take this little loop in the middle. And whoops, I need the loops. I'm going to double click that so it grabs everything. And now I'll just drag it out like that. And let me make sure. Is that what I want?
I think it's like a little pulled inwards. Like at least that's how it looked in the picture to me.
So you mean like this?
No, like the center vertex. I mean, yeah, edge. Just pull it down a bit.
Down, you mean here?
No, like the whole loop.
Oh, oh, I see. You mean like that?
No,
Like
but down.
this?
Nah, you're pulling it
Oh,
forward.
oh, I
Down.
mean, I see. Like really, like
Yeah.
that?
Yes, that's how it looked to me. But
You know,
or upward.
yeah, I think I'm going to go up with this here,
Yeah.
just because. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. And if we wanted to round this out, I mean, those are pretty sort of cartoony and basic, which is kind of interesting for this style. We could do that. I think, yeah, I think this, you know, sometimes you see those like Spanish tiles and things, and they tend to do these sort of thing. It does a little bulge like that, which is kind of nice. I like this. I'm going to go with this, and let's make ourselves a little system here. I'm going to just copy this by pressing Control D, right? And Control D gives me that. Let's see how much of this we actually need. That's cool. In fact,
I think it was 7.
7? Oh, you actually counted them out? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's call this shingle, just so I don't have like all these different cubes in my thing here. I'm going to try to get these more or less the same distance here. If you wanted to go for precision, there's a way to do that too. We could have these, I got 5 now. And then here, Okay, so here's the thing. Let's try something out here. I'm going to just take all these guys here, and I'm going to rotate them up a little ways like that. You know what? All right, I wanted to skip it. I didn't want to show you guys this just yet. Let me show you something though. Let's take this, and I'm going to do, instead of just doing a duplicate, I want to show you this. I've got a duplicate special, right? And we'll cover this more in future sessions here. But the duplicate special, what I can do is, oh, right. Take this guy. Oh, wow, really? All right, so this is the shingle. Let's call this shingle. Shingle. All right, I'm going to press Shift Control D, and what for this one actually it is interesting. Take a look at the options it gives you here. So I'm going to click the little box open, and here. If this says duplicate input graph, we can check it off. This is something I was fooling around with here probably, but usually it'll look like this, and it'll give you the option of just copying a regular copy or doing an instance. This is what I want to show you, instances. These are powerful things here because I can modify the shape of things as we go. Now, check this out. If we want, I'll show you guys more of this in future classes. We can get some really sort of interesting sort of transformations with you know, the copy here, but I'll leave that for later. Let's just focus on this here. So I've got this option here where I can either make a copy. That's kind of what I've been doing all along now, or I can make an instance here, which gets really interesting. I'm going to apply this, and whoops. All right. So you can see here we're already some of the things it did here. So because my duplicate special had this little axis here, it's the z-axis, set to 90 degrees, then it went ahead and made an instance for me. Now, another thing we can do, I guess while I'm on this subject, I wanted to leave this for later on, but what we could do is, let's see, I want to move this about 2 units here, 2 units here. So let's say translate x, y, and z. I want it to move -2 units because here I'm facing forward. I want it to move -2 units this way every new object that I make. And so you were saying I have 7 copies. Let's see what this looks like here. If I just do this, and again, I have an instance here, which is very, very cool. Oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's actually very cool. You know what? Let's go a little bit big. Let's go a little bit more. Let's do, say, 2. Let's go 1.5, right? Let's apply that. Does that look good? Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm done with this guy here for a second. Let's do this. All right, so this is my original one. It doesn't matter anymore. These are all instances, and here's what I want to show you here. So let's do some sort of messing around with this here. So for starters, I want this thing to rotate, not here, but I want to rotate it on this this tip here. So I'm going to press D to access my pivot point here. And now, you know, now if I rotate this, I bet all of these, yep. Oh, I guess I should have done that earlier. So I can, yeah. I mean, whatever, this is fine. They don't have to be perfect. I think, you know, maybe if you were going for something, this is cartoony and I want to get a little bit more sort of imperfection and I don't want it to look like a computer model. I actually am going for sort of offsets here, so I'm just taking advantage of that sort of happy accident. I don't know if you could say it was happy, but you know, I'm just taking advantage that I kind of forgot to do that here. And let's give it a little bit of sort of variation here, you know, maybe even some stuff on the side here, maybe. Just so it looks a little bit more natural, right? All right, so with these guys, now here's where it starts getting interesting here. So what if, you know, I decided here, I'm going to put a little loop right there. And that's what an instance does, you see. So all these guys here, they're live, you know, that means like if I want to change the shape of this here, I still could, and I could get that little sort of shingle to be modifying all that stuff for me at once. So let's take this. Let's see. Shift Control D. Actually, Shift Control D won't do what I want. So let's do this. Let's open this up again, and I want to get rid of this value here. And what else? Actually, this one I'm going to just try this out. So let's see if I move this forward about 1, 2, 3. Oh, let's call it 3.8 units on X, 3.8. And if I apply that out, and that's, yeah, maybe that's a little too far. So let's call it 3. And 7 copies. Maybe we need a little less.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
All right, so let's try 5. Oh, that looks appealing, right? And oh, that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so with this, I bet we could take some things here. I'm going to just take all this stuff here and do a slight little modification like that. So I get this nice little sort of shingle sort of effect. I like this. I'm going to take this and let's go ahead. I'm going to make this a group. Yes.
Sorry, could you just repeat, just what was it, the command specifically that made it so that when you alter one, it altered all of them? Can you just repeat that part?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, yeah, absolutely. Let's do this again. Let's take all this stuff here.
It's the instance, right? That's
Yeah,
doing all of that.
it's just an instance, exactly. So let me make another little shingle here really quick. Yes, is that a question, someone?
No. So that's the difference between an instance and a copy. The copy would just make a copy of it and then they will all be separate, but the instance is gonna like basically if you affect one of them, it affects all of them, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's really, really nice for like patterns and things like this, because
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, it's no, exactly, and the sooner you guys get used to this idea here. In fact, you guys, for all of your things that you're ever going to be working with computers and stuff, you guys can get used to that idea. It's really, really powerful. So this is something kind of like I was saying like earlier. You know, you guys we were talking about like you know, like even. I know this seems like a tangent here, but even like in terms of like Andy Warhol and his whole idea of like making you know things like sort of industrial and sort of that it can be repeated and things like that. Even in terms of like creatively, I think there's a lot to it here. You know, you can be so much more productive if you can identify like little patterns and processes that can be repeated here. So if this is something that, you know, a shingle's a shingle, I'm not going to model one shingle for one new shingle. I'm just going to repeat it. I'm going to copy it. But in order to give it like some variety here, the instance is a really powerful thing to work with here. And the reason I bring this up is because this is the tip. We're just scratching the surface here because this is this concept here, because there's a lot of things you can do with this stuff to just like make, you know, instead of making a house here with concepts like instancing, I can make a whole city, and it can be a sort of a unique city. If you guys are interested, I bet you can look this up. I saw a video at some place where they were talking about the creation of I think it was the Assassin's Creed Unity game, for example. I bet there's even more examples here, but somewhere in there I saw a video about like how they created this city, as they call it, procedurally. And you know, basically they made these little systems where they would have walls and things like that, and they just gave it over to the computer, and the computer would put all this stuff together based on like a few sort of directions from the user or the artist, you know. And so you know, this is a really, really powerful concept. I'm sure there's a lot of other examples that you can find, and I'll bring this up later here when we get more into it here. But here, just going back to this, let's call this, where is my shingle? It's not what I want. Let's take this guy, shingle, all right? And here, I'm going to make duplicate special. Let's go, I said minus 3.8. No, what did I say? Minus 2.1. Yeah, there we go, more or less. That's fine. And from here, now that I have this, oh wait, while I'm at it here, this time I'm going to do this correctly here. So before I do this, I'm going to press D. I'm going to move that pivot point back here. In fact, I can move it under a ways here. And let's go ahead and apply that. It gives me that. Let's take this one, move it out, move it in, screw that one up a little bit. All right, so I'm fine with this. Let's take this, whoops. And with this one here, I think I said, let's do let's do positive 3 on this. Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, whatever. I'm fine with that, I think. And then here, I just want these things to overlap. So I'll just take the right click. And here's the thing about instances. I think, I forget who was asking me about this. So here's how I modify them. So, okay, so first of all these things, they're more or less the same, right? And I'm going to just do some things here to sort of play around with the randomness of them. And there's, later on, I'll show you guys some better ways to do that here, because they don't have to be equal. And in fact, I think it'd be more interesting if things were a little bit more scattered. And I'll show you guys how to do that later. All right, so here, we got this going on here. What I'm going to do is just take all this stuff here. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm good with that. I want to change the shape of this. So I'm going to right click on this and let's go to, that edge, and I'm going to start pulling this down a little ways. So I've got this nice little curve. If you want, I mean, you could even add, you could do what you need to do to modify the shape. And because there are instances here, it's reacting to the whole thing. So like, if I wanted sort of a smoother thing like that, now I have these curvy shingles like that, that I could work with that way. So yeah, I could do that. Let's right click on this. I'm going to go to Object. And Face, double click this. You can just do something like that, and that will that'll work mostly. I'm kind of happy with that. And then I can just sort of offset a little bit of these things just to give it the variations that I'm looking for. And let's go ahead and make this a group. I'm going to press Control-G to make it a group. And by pressing D, I can access the center. So let's say the center, I can place it on the grid somewhere around here. By pressing X, I can snap to the grid. Whoops. See? And let's take this guy. And this time I'm going to hold down V, right? And V snaps to vertex. So if I have my move tool and I press V, I can snap this all the way up here. And let's zoom in here by pressing F for frame. And let's see what we get here. If I just sort of place it in here, that's actually pretty cool. Let's see what we get here. If I do this. All right, yeah, that looks pretty good, except for the curve. And here's what I'm going to do with the curve. I like this right about there. Now what I can do here is I can apply a deformer. And if I go here to, on the top menu here, it says deform. Here where it says nonlinear, I'm going to go to where it says bend, right? And then here, well, I'll just go ahead and press this because I don't have a whole lot of options that I want to mess around with. What it's going to give me here is you're going to see, as soon as this thing comes up, you're going to see this line appear here on all these, on this group of shingles, and everything in that group is going to be manipulated. As soon as my computer comes back again, I took a little break. There we are. All right, so here is the bend handle, and you see it's created this way. So I'm going to take this bend handle, and I'm going to position it more or less this way, around the sort of facing of the roof. And here you'll see the inputs here for the bend. Let's close that out. And I'm going to manipulate this guy that says curve. Oh. Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Let's try this out again a different way. I'm going to take this and let's take group. And this time I'm going to go to mesh and I'm going to combine all these objects into one shape. So this is now, oh yeah, and I know, okay, yeah, I know why that happened too. It's because, let's do this. I'm going to go to edit and delete the history so it's non-dependent on the original shape. And I can just delete the original group. And now let's go to deform nonlinear, and let's go to bend, and we'll just apply this here. In fact, let's put that back here, and I'm going to just move this into place around here somewhere. There we are, right about there, like so. And here, I can go to deform, nonlinear. Let's try that bend again. And then if I rotate this out this way, you can go to bend. Let's try the curvature. There we are. And then here with the curvature, you get that nice sort of round sort of thing to it here. And I bet, you know, you can, how you move this line, it kind of determines some of that. You could choose to limit it here by, say, the low bound and the high bound. So like, let's say you're here with the high bound, you want it to be like around that spot here. You could do that. Or I could probably just take this here and just, yeah, I do like that shape. So, you know, I'm kind of happy with the curve here, more or less. So let's do this. Sure, let's just go and edit, delete by type, and we'll delete the history. Press that G again to repeat, to delete the history. There we are. And I can move that back in here somewhere. And that gets me more or less the thing. I guess I missed a little bit here, but this is going to get me mostly what I'm looking for here. And I could probably do a few tweaks here to fix the rest of that up. Or, you know, I could just take my time and do it a sort of a nicer version of this here. But, you know, this more or less gives me that effect that I was looking for with the house here. Yeah, right? More or less.
So cool.
Instances, guys. So this is a really, really powerful concept.
Definitely powerful. Wow.
All right. So somebody, let's see. So we talked about the vertexes. We did the roof for the house. The basement as a separate piece. So again, I think in the last class, I took this, well, let's call this roof, right? And let's call this house. At this point, you guys, I'm starting to get quite a bit of history here, and I don't want anything to go wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the history so that I can't possibly mess this up. All right, so last class, I did a little basement here for it, like by cutting up this this edge, or I cut another loop in here by using the multi-cut tool, and then we kind of extruded this out of here this way. I mean, you could do that here, So, you know, what I did last class here was just basically this, and then I sort of extruded this out like that. We got this edge here and just did that loop. I brought it back in this way here, and that kind of works, you know. If we look at the concept here, it's, well, it's more or less similar, although I do have a sort of an indentation in there somewhere. So we could do that. I think today what I want to do here is I'm going to do something a little bit simpler. Let's do this today. I'm going to just take this and make myself a little thing like that. Let's take my vertices here, and I'm going to take the multi-cut tool and just sew these guys together here. So, okay, guys, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, okay? So not necessarily, you know, you don't necessarily have to follow the same way I'm doing. There's probably some different ways that you can do this here. So let's take this guy here, and I'm going to just press D, and let's snap that vertex right there to the center, so to the origin, the world 0, center of the world, right? I'm going to hold down X so it snaps to grid. And now, because I've pressed D, I'm not moving the object, I'm moving the pivot only. And I'm going to put that right there in the center. Let's press D to get out of there. And now if I move this, it actually moves the object. And from here, let's, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, well, I guess I could have, if I did this, I guess I was thinking about, like, you know, making copies and rotating it out that way. But actually, for the example that I want to show you here, that's not all that necessary. What I think that we might want to do, you know, come to think of it, I do want the little bevel there. Sure, something like that. All right, so yeah, so this is what I want here. Let's take this guy, that little pinch here so it doesn't look so neat. Okay, so here with this, I think what I want to do here is I want to mirror this, and here's what I want to do. I'm going to take this mirror, it goes this way. Let's do another one here where, how are we going to do this? You know what? Let's mirror that out this way a little bit. Let's take this, and this time let's do another mirror. Sure, yeah. So here, I can work with this part here. Let's do that, and I'm going to change the mirror plane here on the input here. So it said 47, so I bet that one is the one I needed to change. So I want it to say 45. And here, you know, I accidentally sort of unclicked this here, so I guess I'm going to have to play around with the offset here. Oh, and this is a little bit of a pain here. Let's just do this by hand here. So here, taking the mirror, let's do, I mean, whatever, we can do this thing here. Yeah, that's kind of what I want here. I'm going to fix this. So it says, yeah, I'm pretty close. It says minus 45. And yeah, if I'm careful about it, I can get all that stuff out of this. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool here. And I'll show you guys a way to fix this in case we want to. Or I'll just do it here. I'll just do this like this. And then from here, I guess what we can do here is I'm going to just double click this part, delete that out of the picture. And let's do another mirror here with this. You guys, I realize this may be, you know, just for this revision here, I'm sort of jumping ahead to a couple sort of new concepts here. But I just thought I'd show you some things that are kind of cool and give you guys a chance to sort of practice with them. Yeah, there we go. And so this should say 45. I'm not going to press enter. I'm going to just maybe click over here. And let's see what we can get. This is a little funny at times here to get this. Sure, we'll just deal with this. That looks fine. And then here, I can just make this an object here. Let's do this. I'm going to go to modify, and I'm going to center the pivot. Oh, shoot. Object. Let's delete the history. And now let's go to modify, center pivot. And yeah, and then we can just sort of position it in maybe this way here. See, this is a different way to do the that object here. We could do this and then just maybe sort of pinch it down here, you know, and then of course, like if you wanted really to sort of fit it in here, we could, you know, that's just yet another different way to modify these things here. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to do things. There's not necessarily, you know, not necessarily saying that this way is better than just cutting into the edge. I mean, you can do that too. The advantage that this gives you maybe is, let's see what we get here if we just pull that in here. Whatever. I could maybe just cut a hole in here. And now, let me show you guys one more thing. Let's take this. Oops, this loop. Pinch that in here. Let's take this one here. Oh, I see. I had the symmetry turned on. So I'm going to fix this part here so it's still even. So I'm going to make a loop. I'm sorry. I'm going to select this loop. And then select the corresponding ones here. I'm going to build a bridge. And if you guys remember what a bridge is it'll take one edge and it'll meet it across the corresponding edge here. So in this case here, I have a bunch of edges. Last class I only did one. This one here, I'm going to do a bunch of them here. And if I make a bridge here, it connects that up here. So that's one way to sort of fill that up here. Now with these guys, I could fix this up easily this way here by making a bridge, and that just, you know, because I only had one edge here and another edge here, it sort of automatically fills that up here. And with no divisions, it's sort of like perfect here. Now, yet a different way to do this here is I could go here and under mesh, I have this, this command here called fill hole. And if I press this, then it does pretty much the same thing. You see, and it fills that up here, and we get that little thing there for the basement here. And I guess, I mean, I'm not too happy about this little bottom thing here, but I could, I bet I could sort of fix it up here to make it, I guess, a little better maybe, you know. And then here we can fit in that window or whatever. All right, so the door. The door. What was the specific question on the door, you guys? Somebody had a question on the door.
It was like, is it the door part of the building or was it a separate object? What would you recommend more?
I was gonna, at first I was gonna say it's sort of your call, but I think if it were my call, I think I would say it would probably be better as a separate object, because that way, you know, getting back to my idea of like reusing things, you know, separate objects are reusable, you know. And so, whereas like something that's sort of built into the building, that's going to be a little harder to reuse. So I would say, yeah, you know, if we're doing the door, I think I would probably do something just like this. Let's put that in here. You know what? I'm just going to try modeling it here first to get that certain shape that I like. And then here, let's give that an extrude. I'm going to go with the offset this time and bring it in a little ways just to get that frame. Take this, I'm going to push it in a little bit like that. Yeah, that's a door, I guess, you know. You know what? That's a door. Yeah, that's a door, but I don't know that I want those corners to be flat here. So let's try this out here. I just chopped off that entire section there. Whoops, what did I do? Oh yeah, all right, so I chopped off this entire section here, whatever, that's fine. And then here, oh come on, this one here. And then here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flatten this out. So I'm gonna just select all those vertices, I'm gonna press R, and then just bring that down here to this, the bottom here. And because, you know, this is gonna meet the porch floor here, you know, the ground level, then I don't know that I care too much about it. If you really, really wanted to get, you know, neat and fix all this stuff up here, I mean, you could, yeah, you could probably just go in and sort of fix some of that stuff up there with a fill hole or bridges and things like that. But I think my thinking here is like, we're not going to see that because it's going to be underneath, I mean, it's going to be over the porch. So, you know, what you don't see here isn't really going to affect it. And it's going to save a little bit of geometry. So especially in things like games or something, that might be a consideration that you want to keep here. You know, so here, let's see. You know, we could have that. That's my door right there for that. Maybe it's a little big, I understand. You know what? Just for the purposes, does somebody have a question on the balcony? I don't remember if there was a question on the balcony. No?
I don't think so.
All right, I thought maybe that's what?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, so I thought I would just do something that technically it's not in the reference, but it's just kind of fun. And maybe this is also jumping ahead a little bit, but I thought I'd show it to you guys anyway here. And I'll see if I can post this up today. I'm probably not going to edit it because it just took me so much time last time to edit this. And but anyway, I'll post this up so you guys can rewatch it here. Okay, so all right, and this is jumping a little bit ahead. We're going to be doing this later, but you guys may have noticed, some of you guys may have poked around here already and seen that there's actually some different ways of creating objects here. So for now, we've been living mostly on the poly modeling shelf, right? You see, I guess on my version of Maya, these are orange. I forget if the newer ones have changed their color yet, but those things look different every year sometimes. So anyway, here under curves and surfaces here, you'll see these other things here that look, in my case, they're blue or whatever. You have these different ways of creating curves, and let me show you what a curve is, right? So if a curve, this is my favorite way to draw curves. It's got the Bezier curve, and if you're familiar with Illustrator, this should feel pretty familiar for you. You know, so basically, it lets me drop a little point in there. And here, if I click and let go, I've got a corner. If I click and drag, now I can extend the little Bezier curve here, and I get this stuff here. Now here's the thing. What?
Just like the pen tool.
Exactly. Yeah, just like the pen tool. Mm-hmm. Now here's the thing. Like, let's say here I got that sharp corner here, and I changed my mind, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I need this to be a little softer here. So if I right-click on here, you know, this curve, this looks a whole lot different than our polygons because it is different. So first of all, the first thing you need to know about curves is they're not really objects yet. You know, they're curves, or they're things that can be used to make objects. Just to, well, hold on, before I move into this here, you know, just to show you here, this is different than this. So I'm going to make, with these two curves, I can make an object called a surface. And in this particular surface is going to be created with a method called loft. And that makes that sort of thing here, right? And so the cool thing about this here is now if I take any one of these control vertices here and do that, this creates what you call a NURBS surface. This is different than polygons, right? Anyway, we'll have a whole sort of a different, we'll talk about that later. I'm not dealing with NURBS surfaces yet, but here With the curve itself, I'm going to just take this this control vertex here. The thing I like about the Bezier is I have a lot of control over how I want this this profile to be here. So here, if I hold the Shift, right click, and right now this is a corner, right? But I can have this be a Bezier, which is going to give me pretty much this effect, or I can have it be a Bezier corner, which now gives me these little guys here that I can pull around here, and you know, and I can shape pretty much how I want. So you know, the rule of thumb here is like if they're lined up, then you will have a, sort of a smoother line. There you go. See? And we got this going on here, and you get this nice curve here. Now let me show you something. This is the reason I may be getting a little ahead of myself here, but the reason I thought would be kind of fun. I did the balcony in the last class here. I'm not seeing the other side of the house, but what I thought might be kind of fun is what if we had a little rain gutter or something here coming down the side of the house, and just to make it sort of fun, I thought we could do something like this. Let's go here and turn on wireframe unshaded by pressing that. I'm going to just draw something here, and let's have it go down. You know what? Let's do about 3 of those, because I'll show you why I'm putting 3 in just a second, because I want the whole sort of drain gutter, or whatever you call it here. And then here, yeah, and then we'll just sort of shoot it out that way, like that. All right, so here, let's bring this out this way here. And now I'm going to right click and go to Control Vertex. And I did put 3 of those things in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys and bring them out here like so. Let's see what we can do here. If I scale that down, in fact, if I scale all this down, there we go. Yeah, that gives me a flat line. But do I want a flat line? I think I do want that here, like that. And then I'll bring this up here. And maybe this over here. That's fine. All right, cool. So let's do this. I'm going to right click on this, and let's make, you know what? Let's make a pipe. Do this. Let's make that a lot simpler. So I'm going to go with 8 sides on that.
I see where you're going with this.
You see where? Yeah, you see where I'm going?
Yeah. You're gonna make the object follow the line.
Yeah, I think I did. I may have done a something like that in the house I did the last class, but I think I did it a little differently here. All right, so we've got this little guy here, and I'm going to move it along this side, and I'm going to rotate this by pressing E, and then moving it over this way. You know what? Let's do this. I'm going to snap this to the curve. So far, I've shown you guys how to snap to the grid by pressing X. And watch, if I press X, you see these little magnets come on. So X snaps to grid, V snaps to vertex here, and then C snaps to curve, right? So if I do C here, I can get really close to this here, and then here it'll sort of snap to the curve here, and I can just sort of move this object or whatever it is along that that thing here. So I'm going to just put this over here for now, and let's take now here's a sort of a trick that's really, really cool. I'm going to take this this pipe here. I'm going to select these faces. I'm only interested in the front here, so I'm going to press Control. And you see when I press Control, I get the little minus sign in my cursor. I'm going to drag that up so I can sort of erase the selection on that side here, and then I can sort of extrude along this line here. You know what? While I'm thinking of this here, oh, whatever, let's just go with it, and I'll show you how to do that later. So let's just take this. I'm going to select shifts. I've got the faces selected, and I'm going to shift select that curve, okay? And now I'm going to do my extrude, and by default, it's set up to recognize that curve. And you can see here, well, let me just do it here. And it just shoots all the way to the end of that curve. And it's like, well, that's kind of a little weird, right? But if we start adding some divisions, it gets a little less weird. And you know, and again, like specifically, if you have like nice curves here, then you'll start seeing some more sort of predictable things. Now, my thing here, whatever, let's just put that on here, and let me see what I can do here. If I've got this, this is sort of twisting around, but if I have this this little curve here, this is what I want. I'm going to press right click and then control vertex. Let's take this little guy here, and I'm going to go to yeah, you know what? Let's not do the Bezier corner. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another. Yeah, I could have made a sort of a softer curve, and I'll show you guys how to do that just now, and we'll talk about this again. But just for the time being, I'm just going to do it. So I'm going to go to curve point, and this is the thing about curves, is they're still sort of abstract a little bit here, and I could just decide to put something in here, and then back under curves, you see in here, I have this command here for inserting a knot, right? And then here, let's do another one. Let's do a curve point. I'll put another one right there. Let's insert another knot. Let's go back to curve. Okay, so now this gives me something a little different here. So now I've got these two little points that I can work with here. And this one here, I can probably make that a Bezier. See, and that gets me something a little softer here, and I can, you know, scale that down or whatever. And, you know, and eventually you can get that sort of shape here. Now, this isn't going to get you everything you want, but, you know, we can, there's some room to play with this here. So, you know, I could, you know, if you needed this thing to sort of follow along a path, you could use the extrude along path command here to get that. And then, of course, I'd probably want to sort of to modify this a little bit so that it looks a little better. But those are some different things that we could use here for that. As far as you know, the front porch here would be kind of using the bend deformer that we just talked about, and also some boards. Let's do a couple of these boards here. So with the boards, you know, basically what I would be doing here is just to create these things here, like that. And a couple of you had some of these boards here that had these little divots here in them, and which makes things really, really interesting here. I would always recommend, you know, for something like this, if you can get a little variety in it, that'd be even better. So here, let's put a little divot here in this. I'm going to use my multi-cut tool to get something in here. Let's take this front little edge here, and I'm going to use the bevel tool, which is this, to get that. And I could kind of work with this here. This isn't ideal here, though. This part here, just so you know, this is not ideal because I have a five-sided polygon here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at some point, it would be worth my while to sort of correct this somehow. And we could talk about that later here. So there's a couple different ways to get this divot here. So one way would be to just hold this here and then draw all the way across here. I forget, somebody had an example of this. I don't know how you got here, but you know, if you just draw there, and when you reach the corner here, it's going to become yellow, and at that point you can press enter, and it'll complete the operation here. So you could do that, and then what we did with that example here was just to take this and just sort of bring it back here. You could do that. One interesting thing that you could do too is you could take these two things here, these two edges, and you could collapse them, sort of. Why is that way? I don't know. Let's do this. I'm going to take the vertex here, and I'm going to use the target weld, and I could just sort of connect the little points here. Uh-oh. So this to there. Oh, right, of course. And then here to here. And yeah, and I do have something that's a little funny here, but I can fix that. And I didn't really want to get too into this just yet, but well, yeah, why don't we just do this here? So I'm going to go here to mesh display, and let's yeah, just harden the edges here, and that fixes that. I'll talk more about what this does later. Mesh display, it has to do with the normals, and that means like the direction that the face is pointing. What I did here is to harden the edges, meaning like each of these corners is going to be sort of a sharp corner. If I chose to soften the edge, then it's going to treat these as round as it can get, so that, you know, it's going to try to connect them. And because it actually is a sharp corner, it's getting this weird sort of shading here, because it doesn't really know how to round out that, you know, the look of that. We'll get into all that later here. But here's one way you can do the divot. Let's do another one right here. Oh yeah, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take this, why don't we do this here? And maybe do something like that. This time, I'm going to take this, let's cut a hole in here. I'm going to take this thing, and we can collapse that. We can collapse this as well. And well, why don't we just, you know, just to clean this up here. And this actually this is a nice sort of division. You see four-sided polygons here, same thing here. So this geometry is a little better than that, I think. So here, you know, I'm just collapsing those edges here. And collapsing, again, you guys, what collapsing does, it takes something like a line or a polygon, and it makes it into a single point. So in this case, this line that's made up of 2 points, it collapses them to a single point here in the middle, like that. And then finally, what I have here is this thing here. So one thing I could do here, let me show you something. I could choose the fill hole, but that's going to give me, it might give me a funny result. Let's go here to mesh, right? And you see this this command here, it says fill hole. If I do that, well, that's not that bad, except for the fact that it didn't put a line in there. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that by first selecting this, and then I can select the multi-cut tool, drop a little point here, it's blue, right? And I can drag along the edge until it hits that corner, and it'll become yellow. And then here, do the same thing, it becomes yellow. At this point, I can press enter, and we've completed our little thing there. So we could do that. Different way that I could do this is I could build the bridge, right? And we talked about this earlier. I can take this, shift select the corresponding edge at the other end, and then I can do up here, you have this command that says bridge, that doesn't say anything actually, but it says bridge here at the bottom. But this is the bridge command, and if you don't find it, if you don't find any of this stuff here, you can always find it here under one of these menus here. So for example here, that's what I'm looking for here, and typically you're going to see a little drawing of it here. So the way a bridge works here is, like I said, you have you select one edge, and the bridge works on edges. You select one edge, and there's another edge on the other side to meet it. And you can do this on multiple edges, the way we did with the basement, you know, with a basement roof. So let's see. For example, I think I did this on the other side here, but for example here, with this side here, if I select this entire loop, right, I should count like how many sides there are to this here, and then I can just make sure that there's the same number of sides. Now, if I do a bridge, you know, it'll do the whole thing across, you know, and not just one. But in my case here, whoops, in my case here, where were we? Because I only had one, you know, one thing here and another thing here to meet it, then it just did one, basically one division like that. So yeah, so that's kind of an example of bridges. Let me see if I had anything else on my list here.
But when you do a bridge like that, it so at the end of it, like at the tip point where the vertex is, it's still separated from the bridge that you created, right?
No. Oh, wait. Repeat that.
Alright, so go to the edge of the wood, like where you created the bridge. You see, all right. So go to vertex mode.
No, it's not separated.
It's not, because
no.
it did happen to me. Like, yeah,
well, yeah, but what might have happened is, like, did you have a division in here?
I think so.
And that's why. So let's do that. That's actually a good question. Let's do that. So come on. All right, here we are. Let's take this guy. Let's just delete this out, and I'm going to build this again. So here, this is different. Okay, so let's take this and then shift select that, right? And in here, I'm going to make a bridge. This time, let's put in some more divisions. And now, of course, it's going to be separated. You know, so here, you know, it doesn't have a way of, it doesn't have
there
anything.
you go. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened.
So if you only have like, I think the default sort of, maybe the default is 0 divisions. I don't know. Let's try this. So yeah, if you only have 0 divisions, then it just takes what you give it here, you know, and does a thing like that. So that's, you know, that's kind of just the way it works right there.
Cool.
Let's see. I think I've kind of covered most of the things that seem to be on my list here. Anything else anybody was having any questions about? Well, you know, as far as the balcony here, you know, it's just basically, you know, we did something kind of like that for the beams. Let's call this 0.5 by 0.5. It gives us a nice square. What I'm doing here with the inputs is I'm taking advantage of the, you know, these measurements that I get here, and I can try to sort of get a lot of my work done right in here to make things all nice and precise. And then, you know, usually what I do is I'll sort of get this to be, you know, more or less the size that I want here. And all I did here to get these beams here, just do that, and then maybe just extrude this in. And you could just pull this in that way, right? Or you could take the thickness and bring it in that way. I don't know, something like that, right? Now, what we could even do here, you guys, if you wanted this to be more round, I guess, you know, you could take all these loops here, and I'm double clicking these loops, and all it is really is just a simple bevel. You know, and we got a little bit of that. You got to watch out here with these spaces that are too close together. So you might not want to bevel that stuff, and maybe just the outer corners.
It seems like I might have overcomplicated it for myself, because it seems like a lot of manipulating of shapes, stuff like the, I guess the shingles. Like it seems just like that stuff seems more complicated, but the overall architecture of the house itself seems just manipulation of.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I think in the very beginning here, just to revise that concept here, the very beginning was, you know, I have this cube, right? And let's say here, let's give it a cut here. I'm gonna put a little cut down the middle. Okay, let's make a house out of this. So there's, I could start with the face, right? And by taking this, if I were to rotate that around, that does a little bit of what I'm trying to do here, which is to make that slanted roof, right? It's not ideal, but I mean, we could get it done just by manipulating the polygon. So like here, I feel it's a little it's a little short on this end. So what I'm going to do here is just maybe grow it out here, and then we can, when I say grow it out, I've used the scale tool. So I'm pressing R, and I can just bring this out this way. I'll press W and move it out this way here. So we can do all that just with the face, right? Now a different way, and maybe a better way, I think this would be easier, would be to either take, say, the edge, right? Move that up. And so that way I didn't have to do as much work to sort of manipulate it here. Or I can take the vertices, which really, the vertices are pretty much, you know, when I took this edge, right? You know, this edge is made up by this vertex and this vertex. So if you select them both, say this, and then shift select this, you see when I press shift, this little cursor becomes a little plus sign, and I can do that. Or an easier way to do this here is I can just draw a little marquee sort of carefully around, and I like to use the camera for this here, so I can sort of aim down, you know, where I know that it would hit. And now you can just sort of manipulate it up and down like that. And really, you know, this is an ideal way actually to sort of shape things here. So let's say, you know, I wanted to make this taller or whatever. You could just take the shapes, I'm sorry, the vertices and manipulate them. It's really all about like how you want to work with this. It's whatever is easier for you. There's some different ways to work with those objects here.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Again, maybe I was just, again, overcomplicating for myself, possibly.
Yeah, no worries. I think with all this stuff, really, you know, I'm just trying to sort of introduce the basic concepts here. And then I think, you know, when you guys actually get into it and start trying things out and getting things wrong and trying them out again, that's really where you're going to learn, the most of this here. But yeah, so that's sort of a little revision here on the house here. So I'm going to leave this video up for you guys here, and I'm going to stop the recording now.